Good morning, everybody. I'm Peter Forshaw. The company's Maxwell Stevens. Welcome to another webinar. I'm delighted this morning to welcome Nick Brook, who's the Regional Facilities Manager / Workplace for all of the areas outside the US for a company called Roku. Good morning, Nick.
Morning, Peter.
How are things with you? How have you been managing in the current climate?
I think personally, it's getting a bit tedious. It's getting a bit samey, and which is it's hard going sometimes.
Yeah,
you're not living the kind of normal life of seeing people and doing the normal things with family and friends. And certainly as workplace and facilities people professionally, it's all been about COVID, making the workplace safer, dealing with suppliers to get everything that you need in the office. We are opening up on a gradual basis, so we're making sure that everything's safe. And it's been so focused on COVID that all the other workplace projects that we had slated for this year have been transferred into next year, with cross fingers, hoping that they will happen.
it will happen next year?
Well, hopefully, hopefully. But what I found out professionally is that getting together virtually with similar colleagues in other industries, that's been really good. We're all in this together, and we're all seeing similar things in our workplaces and dealing with our people. I mean, next year is just a brave new world. I think it's quite difficult to predict and plan for, but it's something that we need to do. And I think one of the qualities of facilities and workplace people is their resilience. That if the COVID ship changes direction, and then we will change direction with it.
So how do you suggest we get back to, I know it's an overused term, but the new normal, or where we were perhaps?
Yeah, I would suggest humbly that we're not going to get back there. I think in one sense this is a facilities person's dream, that companies are reconsidering how and where people work. And if you look on a lot of the informal polls on LinkedIn and other places, people seem to want a hybrid model of having that freedom of working at home or in the workplace, which a lot of people have been wanting to do that for a long time. And now I think a lot of companies are realizing actually what can we do about that, and that has a myriad of implications about how do you get teams together physically, because virtually is fine. We're only about 22 weeks in, I think, to this situation, and that's not long in the scheme of things. After a year or two, how would we feel and how we'll be using our offices?
Yeah.
I mean,
sorry. How do you? So the government have done a very good job of probably making the public a little bit scared. I think the general population of the UK are quite happy now to go out and enjoy their discounted food on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, sit in a park, but they're a bit reticent to go back to the office. How do we actually persuade them or get them back to the office?
Yeah, I think probably one of the difficulties that's beyond us as facilities professionals is how people get to the office. So if you work in London or any major city centre where you have to commute, I think from what I hear of colleagues that a lot of offices have really well prepared for bringing people back in, but it's how people get into the office that's actually more concerning.
Yeah.
And I think certainly we at Roku aren't forcing people to come back. We are making the office as safe as we can with one-way systems, masks, sanitizers, looking at doing as much touchless interaction with food and drinks and machinery as possible. But I think the acknowledgement that some people just will not feel safe, even if you've done all that. And you have to acknowledge that, you know, you have to provide for those people in a home environment. But then you've got the other end of that spectrum where people really want to come back in to the office because their home situation is not really helpful to work. And you've got a whole range of people in between that. So it is a big challenge. And how do we, you know, as with the employee experience, which has been concentrated on the office for so long, how do you provide maybe not the same, but very similar workplace experience at home as well?
Yeah, it must be difficult.
Yes, a big challenge, which we like. So,
yeah. And what do you see as the new future?
Again, I think following on from choosing where to work, that there has been a wholesale trust of, certainly in the UK, of the workforce to work at home. Very difficult to remove that and call people back into the office, but how to make that hybrid model work for the benefit of employee and employer, and the challenges that raises. I mean, certainly with the space, commercial office space, while a lot of people are tied into leases, it's, you know, what happens on the horizon when those leases come up? Do you need as much space as you've got now? And, you know, it brings up other challenges about business continuity in a home environment. You know, what happens if there is power downs or floods in your home environment? Yeah, how do you get back up and working? Do you have to come into the office for that? If offices shrink in space, what happens to business rates? If we are looking at moving to a hybrid model, I think train operators have to come up with some type of system that makes it easy for people to have going down to London or into Birmingham or Manchester, 4 or 5 days a month, suitable ticketing to do that. And getting together with people. What we really don't want is kind of repeating that Friday's a new Saturday, where you have quite a very sparsely populated office on a Friday. So again, it's making better use of that space.
Do you think that, on the whole, let's concentrate on London, because obviously there's 70% of the country's buildings are in London. Do you think that there will be less requirement for offices?
Certainly, well, of those in what you just described, yes, I think there probably would be. And I think, again, going back to these informal polls, that workers would really enjoy having that freedom to go into the office or go into the workspace, but also having the freedom to work at home. But that, again, the bigger problem with that is a lot of those buildings are linked to pension funds, and if companies aren't occupying those buildings, what happens to them? Is it going to be a renaissance in, how we do city centres? And, is home design going to change? Are homes going to be built now with some type of home office built into it as well?
In the garden.
In the garden? In the attic? And I think, given, it seems like a long time that we've been in this, but we're coming up to a couple of what you could describe as hurdles in the next 6 months. So going back to school in September, I think that's going to give quite a few parents relief in one sense, that they won't have children at home, so they can crack on undisturbed in their work. However, if your child or your child's bubble at school gets a infection or suspected COVID-19 report, then not only does a child have to go and stay at home, but you have to isolate as a family. So what impact is that going to have? We're coming up to flu season as well, and getting flu and COVID mixed up in potentially, if you get a cough, is it flu, is it COVID? Again, what does that mean for your household and your work? And when's the vaccine coming? Is it the end of the year? Is it middle of next year? I think working at home, we're very fortunate in one sense if this had to happen, but it's happened over spring and summer. So you can go outdoors into your garden or onto your balcony if you have one, but in winter, in being at home 24/7, that creates another problem as well.
That's brilliant. And lastly, if there are sort of less offices, do you see the requirement for the facilities management industry as a whole to go down?
No, not at all. I think that's very much false economy. I do think the industry has to evolve. And I see that evolution going into more of a workplace sphere, and how to make that environment, as I mentioned earlier, at home and in the office similar, or if not the same. Workplaces now really, one of the recruiting mechanisms is about how wonderful it is to work in this amazing environment. But at home, it's your environment. So what other things can be done to signal to the employee that we can offer the same services, or the same experience working for us, and differentiate us as a employer of choice as well.
So do you think we need to sort of paint the home offices in the corporate colours and put in some soft furnishings and branding?
Well, our corporate colour is purple, so I think most people would maybe avoid that, apart from a couple of T-shirts. So that is a challenge. How do we do that, and how do we make people feel a part of a virtual team? I mean, as you can guess, I'm not from the UK, and in the middle of lockdown, I realised that I was Zooming 7 days a week, family and other people around the world on weekends, and that just got tedious to be on pardon me, calls all week. So what different things can we do as a employer? Yeah.
Do you think, sorry for another question, do you think that facilities management and IT will become closer? So I'm just picturing in my head, all these employees are all working from home.
Yeah.
Is that IT's responsibility? Is it workplace or FM's responsibility? Or do they join together as a department?
I think to be successful, there does need to be, at the minimum, some type of overlapping or coming together. In one sense, facilities, workplace and IT are natural cultural allies, and to again deliver that whole experience, particularly at home, there needs to be a common understanding. Doesn't mean they have to come together, but there has to be very much a common playbook, so to speak. And it was very certainly in my company when we got the instruction to work at home, just how much the whole workplace just did that and made do, particularly for those first week or two when we didn't know what was actually going to be happening. Were we going to go back in, or were we going to stay out longer? And then obviously issues came out of that with, people might not having the right IT kit, might not be having the right desk set up, and we addressed those. But very important that those two groups come together.
So maybe junior FMs in the industry need to go on some IT courses then, perhaps?
Well, maybe some IT people need to go on some workplace courses.
That's the spirit. I've really enjoyed talking to you, Nick. Thanks ever so much for your time, and we'll speak soon.
Good to talk to you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you.